Namaste yogis, welcome to your practice. This is Stephen from YogaWorks. We are continuing with our Unlock series, a mini-series where we focus on a bit more of the flexibility aspects and to dig a little bit deeper into certain body parts that often get a little bit bogged down, a little bit tightened, a little bit restricted because of whatever else you do. It might be sports, but often it is also a lack of movement and long hours of sitting. And this is a major one that is going to help you a lot, especially with the sitting and the other sports. We're going to be looking at unlocking the quads and the hip flexors. It's two groups of muscles. One is in the front of the thighs, a group of 4 muscles. One of the 4 is also a hip flexor, connecting not just over the knee joint, but also connecting into working on the hip joint. And then the deeper hip flexors are the main ones that you might have heard of are the psoas, which connect the front of the thigh bone to the lower back. We're doing these together because they're in the same region. The quad's a little bit lower, the hip flexors a little bit higher, and the two go nicely together. We'll differentiate a slightly different focus to get a little bit deeper into one of the two, and sometimes we'll get both of them in the same stretch. You might need a strap for this session, especially if you're a bit restricted in the front of the thighs, the front of the hips, which might mean that you are unable to hold your foot behind you with ease. That's totally fine, you're still in the right place here. Just grab a strap and then we'll just use the strap to lengthen our arm a little bit, so to speak. I'll show you how to do that in a bit. We're going to be warming up a little bit first, and the first warm up is just to come into a short lunge. So we don't want to go too long here. And then place the hands on the front knee. I have the right knee down to start with. The left foot is in front. And all I'm going to do is tuck the back toes under and lift the back knee up and lower it back down. And then all the while I'm keeping my belly quite strong and I'm lengthening the tailbone down so that this doesn't become a lower back drill, but it's actually a lengthening of that back thigh and front of hip drill. So you can do that a few times and keep moving your belly back and lengthening the lower back down towards the mat. Just a couple of times. And this alone can be quite intense. If you don't have a lot of time, then just doing this for a minute or so is a really good warm up, or maybe to do after you've been sitting for a while. It's a little break. And then let's swap sides. Left knee down, right foot forward. Don't go as long as possible here. Keep it a little bit short. Tuck the back toes under. You can press the hands on the front. You remember the belly's going to stay back. Already when you do this, you're going to feel a stretch in the front of the left hip and thigh. And then we're going to lift up and lower down. You don't have to straighten all the way. We're more interested in keeping the core toned back so that we get the maximum of that stretch in the front of the hip, the front of the thigh. Because if your spine goes into back bend, you're going to lose most of that work. It's not going to be very effective anymore. A couple of times, 3, 2, and 1. Lower the back knee down. Let's swap sides again. The right knee down, the left foot forward. We're going to do a series of exercises to get into this back quad and hip flexor, and we're going to do 4 different versions of the pose because I find all 4 hit like a slightly different angle or aspect of the stretch, which is very useful. So now I'm in a little bit of a longer position, lunge, and I'm going to lift the back foot off the mat and reach back and hold the outside of the right foot with my left hand. So it's opposite hand to opposite foot. And at this point, if you feel you can't quite get there and the front of this thigh and hip are a little bit restricted, then don't panic, just grab a strap here, loop it around the back foot. It's probably best to do that like this. I'm stepping forward again, and now I can walk my hand in and find a good place for me to do the same work. So if this is you, feel free to use the strap as much as you need to. It's going to be the same effect. And at some point you might not need the strap, or you do, which is also good. So we're holding the outside of the foot or the strap. And then for this one, turn the chest towards your left knee, press the right hand down, and then kick your foot back into the hand. So your foot is almost pulling you up, as it were, and it's turning that left shoulder open. Couple of breaths here, really kick the foot into the hand. You'll feel this activates the quad as you are also lengthening it. Feel that. One more deeper breath. Exhale. Now transfer the left hand to the inside of the right foot. Might be a little bit easier to reach. And then this time we're going to be turning the chest down to face down towards the mat. And I'm leaning a little bit down with the torso. And if it so happens that you have space to lower the right elbow down, that's okay. For a long time I wasn't able to do that. Sometimes I still prefer to be on the hands, actually. So just see which one works for you. And then this time, instead of kicking that foot back, pull it in towards the hip. So the right heel might even touch your right buttock. Or come a little bit closer, it's fine. We're going to add one more thing, as if this is not strenuous enough. We're going to press the right knee down into the mat and create the action of dragging it to the front. Wow, that really supercharges this stretch. You'll feel that. Hold for 5, 4, keep pulling forward, 3, 2, 1. Now come up onto the right hand first. Turn your chest to the front. I'm still supported on the right hand. And now I'm going to slowly start to release the back foot. So the left hand releases. You can bring it down and keep squeezing. This is the right hamstring that's doing that. I'm squeezing the right heel towards the right buttock and keep the core slightly active. 3, 2, 1. Reach back again. Hold your back foot if you can, or use your strap. And then this time I'm going to use both hands to hold the front of the ankle. And now I can flex that right foot a bit. So I'm pulling the right toes up to the right shin. And with the right ankle, I'm pressing back so that the hands are lengthening back. My shoulders are even pulled back a little bit. For this one, you can go into a bit more of a spinal back bend. Nice balancing exercise. You might fall out a few times. It's totally okay. Take one more deeper breath. And then slowly release. We'll stay on this side. We'll do a little bit more of hip flexor work, and then we'll do all of this on the second side. Step your left foot in quite a bit closer. So we've got this square shape under the left thigh. Back toes can be untucked or tucked. Figure it out, whatever works best for you. Actually prefer tucked, I think. It gives a bit more tactile feedback on the mat. And now I'm going to press down through the right knee. Do that first. And again, I'm going to tone the belly back. You could even touch the belly and the lower rib cage just to create this like a hollow space in the abdomen, which is the same cue as lengthening the tailbone down, but often we respond better to things that are in front of us. So see what works best for you here. And I want to add one more thing. I want to be creating the action of pulling that right knee forward and the left foot back as if they were trying to meet in the middle here. So do this quite strongly. Ramp up the pressure for 10, 9, slide or drag the right knee forward, 8, 7, belly back, 6, 5, still increase the pressure, 4, you should be shaking by now, 3, 2, 1. And release that tension, but stay in the pose. Now move the left foot slightly forward. And then this time we're going to use the right glute to push that right hip forward. So squeeze your right glute. If you're not sure how to do it, poke it a few times. Yes, you. Switch on now. Thank you. And then the right glute here is opening the front of that right hip, the right hip flexors. They are opposing muscles on either side of the joint. You'll feel that. Squeeze the right glute, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Nice. Release the tension in the glute there. Stay in the pose. Take the right arm up. Lean it a little bit over the head towards the left. And then maybe bend the right arm and just drape it over the head. With the left elbow, forearm, I like to just support myself on the left thigh here. Keep grounding the right knee down. And now with the extra side bend, we're adding another extra element to get a little bit more into the front of the psoas. Because part of their job is also to side bend in the lower back. And then release that. One more little part we want to do. So untuck the back toes. Push the top of that right foot down. And then push it down so much that your right knee becomes a little bit lighter, maybe starts to hover above the mat. Or optional, straighten the right leg completely. And then still here, tone the belly a little bit back so you're not in a massive lower back bend. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slowly lower down. That was one side. Well done. So move back. No fancy transitions here. We're working on our flexibility. Come back into that low lunge. A little bit of a long stance. Left hand is down inside right foot this time. The left knee is down at the back. First one, we're getting to quads, the front of that left thigh first. I'm bending the back knee. I'm holding onto the outside of the left foot. If it's available, if not, it's still there. You just have to use a strap or a belt to bring it within the reach of your arm. Nothing wrong with that. Don't worry about little details like that. And then for this first one, instead of pulling closer, I'm kicking the left foot into the hand to pull that right arm, the right shoulder back. And this will open my chest to the right. And it adds a really nice twist to this quad stretch. A couple of breaths here. Take your time. And then second part, we're transferring the right hand to the inside of the left foot. Again, feel free to use the strap. Instead of turning the chest open, I'm going to turn it down to face down towards the mat. Maybe bending the left elbow a bit so that the chest comes lower, in between, maybe inside the right knee. And maybe the left arm can go down. You can use a block to prop yourself up, of course. Now, instead of pushing the heel away from me, I'm dragging it in, so I'm even bending that right elbow slightly to pull the knee in. And then again, we'll work on our flexibility, it's often hard work, I'm not gonna lie. So if you want more of that, you're pressing the left knee down, and you're creating the action of dragging it forward. It's not actually moving, but you'll feel the difference, the supercharge of the stretch that you have created there. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're coming up onto the left hand first. We're starting to slowly release the back foot, go slowly. Try not to drop it back all of a sudden. And try to keep it as high as possible, squeezing left heel to left buttock. And maybe both hands can come to the inside. I'm lifting the belly and I'm squeezing the left hamstring. 5, 4, 3, 2, One, if you're cramping here, then you're in good company. It's really common. And then I'm going to lift up, hold the back foot with one hand first, and then lift up a little bit higher. And maybe hold the front of that ankle with both hands. Flex the back foot when you're there. Kick your foot into the clasped hands and soften the hips forward and down. Quite an intense stretch, but I'm sure that you are ready for it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Gently release. Now, that was mostly quad work, the front of the thigh. Now we'll shift into front of hip, the hip flexor. Step the right foot in a little bit closer into a shorter lunge. I like to tuck back toes under. You can also untuck them if that works better for you. And then hands press onto the front knee. But the most important, you can use a hand for feedback, is to draw the front ribs in and tone the belly back so you're engaging your front core. Same as lengthening tailbone down, but that might be harder to become aware of. Press the left knee down, and then again, like we've done before, we're pulling the left knee and the right foot towards each other energetically. This is an isometric stretch. We're ramping up the pressure. 10. Drag the left knee forward. 9, 8, 7. Keep the belly back. 6, 5. Ramp up more pressure. 4. Maximum pain-free threshold. 3, 2, and 1. Release that tension. Take a moment. Then step the right foot a little bit longer. And now we're going to use the left glute, which is often offline. It's a muscle that is really strong and big, but often underused, so might even be hard to activate it. Poke the left glute if you need to. Activate it really strongly, and you feel if you squeeze that left glute, there's an intense stretch in the front of the left hip in your hip flexors. So squeeze the left glute, squeeze the left glute. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Release the tension from the glutes slowly. Lift up the left arm. Start to side bend over to the right. You don't have to go far. Left arm can drape over the head there. And maybe right elbow rests on the right thigh. I'm just leaning away from that left knee. And lengthening the whole left side body. And you feel quite like a deep, intense stretch on the left side of your abdomen. That's your hip flexors, connecting the thigh to the lower back on that side. 3, 2, 1. Release that. Last one here in this little sequence. I'm untucking the back toes. Pressing the top of that back foot down. Press down, press down, press down. Maybe nothing happens, that's fine, but just feel the left knee getting lighter. And if you press down so much that it lifts, that's also good. Maybe work towards straightening the left leg. Pull the belly a little bit back. Hold for 5, 4, 3, squeeze, 2, and 1. Slowly release down. Take a moment to step back. Great work. Let's ramp it up a notch. We're going to be using the wall for this next one. So just slide your mat to some wall space. You can pad this a little bit more if you've got a blanket or even a pillow nearby, then that could be really nice. And then we'll start with the right leg. So move the right knee, not all the way to the wall, but leave about 10 centimeters or so. And then tuck the right toes under so they can push against the wall and step your left foot forward, so away from the wall. I'm starting here on the hands, so stay nice and low. This is the initial setup for the stretch. we'll do a couple of variations and activations from here. The first activation is to press the right toes into the wall. Feel that? Almost like you're trying to straighten your right knee. That's the job of the quads, one of the jobs. But of course, nothing's happening because the wall and the ground are not going anywhere. So all that stretch goes into the right quad. Second activation, similar to what we've done before, drag the right knee forward while it stays glued to the mat. Keep the pressure with the toes on the wall, drag the right knee forward. And then third activation, tone the belly a little bit back, so hollow your abdomen. See how that feels. This is option one. If this is more than intense enough for you, then stay there and repeat these 3 steps. Or come up onto with the hands on the left knee. This is a bit more of an intense version, and also it gets a bit more hip flexor and a little bit less quads. The two are sort of a continuous whole, so we're always working on both, whether we are aware of it or not, of course. So either your hands are down a bit milder, or your hands are up a bit stronger. Press your toes into the wall, that's step 1. Push the wall away with your toes. And then press your right knee down and create the action of dragging it forwards. That's the second activation. And then the third one is to hollow the belly, knit the front ribs together, and lengthen the tailbone down. Feel these 3 activations. Often it's really hard to keep all 3. 1 tends to go, 2 tend to go, or all 3 even. But that's okay, just come back to this when you notice. And then slowly take your time. If your hands are up, lower them down. First move the left foot back closer to the wall. And then you can slide that right knee away from the wall. And then let's do the same on the second side. Left knee about 10 centimeters away from the wall. Just find a good space for your body. You can go all the way against the wall, but I find this one is a bit more, it just feels more positive actually. Step the right foot forward. And then first keep the hands, both hands inside your right foot. We're pressing the left toes against the wall, that's number 1. This one might be quite mild, but if it's mild for you, then that's good. We'll move on to the more intense variation just now. And then press the left knee down and create the action of dragging it forward. Still pressing left toes into the wall, so you've got toes, you've got the knee. And then third one is to hollow the belly to the spine. Knit the front ribs together. Toes, knee, belly. 3 activations. See how many of those you can keep. Either stay here, you'll know by now what is your best setup for this. Or if you've got a little bit more space, you can now press up with the hands on that front knee. And we'll repeat the 3 variations. Do the same with your hands down. That's a good place to stay if that's you. Left toes, push them into the wall. Quite hard, like you're trying to straighten your left knee. Left knee, press it down and pull it forward. That's number 2. Number 3, knit the front ribs together. Move the belly back to the spine. Lengthen tailbone down. So we've got toes, we've got knee, we've got belly. How many of those can you activate? 3, 2, 1. And slowly release. We'll end with a little bit of a floor sequence. I will be lying down. I'm going to slide my mat away from the wall again, so I have a bit more space. And the first one is on the belly. So lie on your belly and start to bend the right knee. And first we'll move the hands in like a cobra, bend the right knee, and can you lift the right knee a little bit off the mat? So it's quite an active stretch. You're not going very far. but you're using the glute and the hamstring to lengthen the other muscles, the hip flexors and the quads here. And place the knee back down, reach back with your right hand. Actually, it's better if the left hand is in a sort of sphinx pose. And then if you can hold that back foot, if you can still hold it, but you'll need a strap to do that, no problem. And then maybe start to pull that right heel a little bit closer to your right buttock. For some people, they're able to turn the right fingers forward. My shoulder is not happy with that, so I'm unable to show you that. But if you know that variation, then that's fine. This is sometimes called Ardha Bekasana. A really great way to get into the quads in this supine position. And then gently release that right foot. Swap the hands, so right forearm is at an angle. And first, no, actually, let's do the active one first. I almost forgot. The hands are more like cobra pose. The left knee is bent, so squeeze your left buttock to your heel. Your heel to your buttock, rather. Lift the left knee a little bit. Lift the chest a little bit. Just feel that. The tissues at the back of the leg and hip are contracting to lengthen the ones at the front. Good. Place the left knee back down, reach your left hand back. Place the right arm in a sort of sphinx across your chest here. Maybe just holding the foot is plenty of stretch for you. And maybe you're using the strap. Or maybe you are bringing that left heel a bit closer to the left buttock by squeezing it in with that back hand. And then if you're really flexible and not in this way, actually this is quite tough for me, but the heel might even end up outside your hip or buttock if your body is quite open in that direction. Good. Slowly release. Now come to lie on your left side. Lie on the left side with your left knee 90 degrees out in front of you. You can use the lines of your mat to estimate that. And then we're going to be lying all the way down. Keep this left leg 90 degrees and then hold your right ankle or foot behind you. And then this is one of my favorite lying down quad stretches. You can use your left arm as a pillow here under the head. And what it does is, because this left knee is forward, it prevents your pelvis from tilting back too much and losing much of the stretch. So just feel that. And it's quite a relaxing position for the rest of the body. So hopefully you're able to relax the shoulders, the neck, the spine a little bit more. But it's quite an intense quad stretch, at least for me. Gently release the side. Let's go to the other side. I'm lying on the right side body. Lift the right knee so it's out in front of you, 90 degrees. I'm making a pillow with the right forearm just to rest the head on. And then with the left hand, I'm reaching back to hold that left foot or ankle. You can use a strap again, of course. And I'm gently lengthening the left knee straight to the back of the mat and pulling the left heel in. And you'll see that right hip and leg is pinned down, so it prevents your pelvis from tilting into a back bend tilt, which would lose all the stretch. It prevents anterior pelvic tilt, if you want to know the anatomic term. And then slowly release that. For this last one, you might need a block or a pillow, some support, depending on your body and structure. I usually use a block here. So if you can comfortably sit with your hips all the way down in between your heels, then you don't need a block for this one. But when I do this, I feel a bit of tension in the knees, which is more than I would like. So I'm using a block in between the heels to elevate the floor a bit so I can sit on this support. The rest stays the same. Don't let the knees go too wide, and we're bypassing some of that stretch down the middle of the quads and the hip flexors. Now, just sitting like this might be plenty. For a long time, I had quite a bit of trouble sitting like this, and I could only do it for very brief periods of time. It's becoming more and more comfortable just by doing it, and also working on opening the front of the legs. So if you're struggling with this, and just elevate the hips higher, you can even turn the block to a higher level just to reduce the angle here in the knee joint and to give a bit more space to the quads and the front of the hips. It's fine. So just modify as much as you need to for your body to feel comfortable here. Don't think there's something wrong with you. There's always something wrong with the pose and the setup. There's never something wrong with your body. It's good to remember that. Now, if you're like, okay, I would like to have something a bit stronger to stretch the quads here and a little bit the hip flexor, then you can just walk your hands a little bit back. So now we're increasing this angle between the torso and the thighs. And because the hip points start to lift, we're putting more tension on the quads as well. So what you can also do is lift the hips a bit, slide your buttocks forward, so you're tucking the buttocks underneath the tailbone, and then sit back down, which is again going to lift this and increase the stretch. If you don't have a block and you have more space, you can lie all the way down. If you have a block, then either stay here, or maximum you can come onto your elbows. You would not be lying all the way down if you have a block under the hips, because that wouldn't create a very good angle for this stretch. And then I'm still doing a few things here. I'm not just lying down passively. I'm lengthening the knees to the front. I'm lifting the hip points, so the front of the hip, I'm lifting them up towards my shoulders, and I'm lightly pressing the tops of my feet down into the mat. So I'm trying to prevent a massive arch in the lower back. Naturally, you'll have some arch. It's probably going to be hard to avoid, but so that you're not arching all the way up and losing all the stretch. You can hang the hip back as well. Sometimes I like to place another block under my upper back between the shoulder blades, and then it becomes a really nice restorative pose where you can hang out a little bit longer, maybe 3 to 5 minutes. It's gonna work wonders. Take another deeper breath here. Exhale through the mouth. And then slowly press one hand at a time down to lift yourself up. Maybe you were here the whole time, that's also good. And sit back on your mat. So I hope this made a bit of difference in the front of the quads, the hip flexors. This is going to improve your back bend. So this is a good class to warm up for deeper back bends. It's also going to improve how comfortably you can sit on the floor, or things like a lotus pose or just sitting cross-legged are going to be radically easier if we open up this area in the body. So I hope this worked for you. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste, and see you again soon. Take care.